Okay, hey everybody, thank you so much for joining us today at RG Podcast. This is Isaiah Diesel, joined once again with Darrington, my partner in crime. And Darrington, are you ready for this one? Because this is going to be a pretty intense topic.
Oh
Uh,
gosh, I hope so.
yeah, you want to do the honors, Darrington?
No, no, please. You're
Okay,
the boss.
so we got a very special guest today, um, Sasha, who's going to go by Free Ukraine today. Sasha's actually a nickname, and we want to make sure that we're protecting everyone here because she is actually right in the middle of where are you? You want to go ahead and introduce yourself, and if you can, uh, we normally have like a friendly fire round where we ask some random questions. But what we'd like to do is if you could tell us anything you would like to tell us about yourself, um, about your situation, your upbringing, uh, maybe what kind of movies you like, what kind of food you like, anything that's going to help us to get to know you better right here and right now in this moment. And so, without further ado, we got Free Ukraine. Please be so kind as introduce yourself and tell us where you're calling out of.
Hi everyone. I'm in Kiev now. Um, I live here. I've been born here, and I stay here for now. I'm 40. I'm a woman, a mother, and an IT person. I've been born to Ukraine and lived my first 8 years here, and then my father became a military man because my mom asked him to do that. Just it was some financial reasons. I was small, and then we started moving around. So as a result, I lived in 3 countries and changed 6 schools in 3 countries. That was Ukraine, Russia, and Germany. And I remember
Wow.
USSR crashed when I was in Germany. Very interesting historical experience. And then my family's life has changed because of that. So after Germany, we lived in Russia, and I also like my grandparents are from Russia, and my both parents were like born and raised in Russia, and so because of my grandparents living there, I was spending every summer in Russia as a child, and then one whole year in the seventh grade. And then we returned to Ukraine, and I studied in International Christian University after school. It was an English based education, and then somehow then I lived again in Germany for 1 year for exchange program, and after that I really changed several professions and hobbies, and maybe I would say that myself I like trying everything new, switching hobbies, switching social bubbles every couple of years, and yeah, I've been a different person in different periods of my life. I
Hmm.
have a son. He's 12 years old.
Wow.
I am divorced and I'm bringing him alone for the last 10 years. And I'm IT person, business analyst working on IT outsource companies, Ukrainian companies working with foreign customers.
Okay, that's a really great intro. Is there anything you could tell us about any kind of preference you like maybe favorite books, favorite movies, anything, anything just random like that? Maybe a hobby or something that you might have.
For the last 2 years, I'm learning playing squash as a like a tennis in the room. That
Yeah,
helped
yeah,
me.
yeah.
And the I'm also started learning piano from January. So I bought my first piano. I have never ever done anything related to music before. They said I can't hear well the tones, but finally with my 40th birthday, I tried to, to learn this.
Hmm.
So I
Okay.
yesterday I had my piano lesson again after 3 weeks pause.
Oh wow, so a little something a little bit normal. Actually, we'll get to talk a little bit more about this later on. But yesterday, my daughter I'm out of town right now, So I just got to see my daughter after about 8 or 9 days. So that was a very special moment yesterday. But we're going to talk a little bit more about that, about your family situation later on. But okay, so we just need to clear the air on something. About 4 weeks ago, in case anyone's been hiding underneath a rock, about 4 weeks ago, Russia invaded Ukraine. The Ukraine. Is that right? The Ukraine. Is that how you say it in Ukraine? The Ukraine.
I'm not sure about
Okay.
English grammar here, but
Yeah, Ukraine.
I think
So
it's Ukraine.
and invading any country, there's that's obviously an issue, but Russia has used the global attention of the last two out of the last three Olympics. The one that was in Sochi, the Winter Olympics. They don't ever use the Summer Olympics, but they used that opportunity to draw attention to themselves, and then it annexed Crimea, and then right in the middle of these last Olympics in Beijing, uh, they launched this attack. So it is like a slap in the face to all the rest of the country who's trying to get together and trying to work together at a time like this. So that being said, we want to first, if you could tell us just what's been your experience over the last month, or even the last couple of months leading up to this moment, and what your life has been during this time.
Um, in general, I'm a political person. I don't watch news. I'm not into much analysis of like rights and lefts and stuff like that. And I didn't watch news during autumn and winter, but then I like in my social bubble, so to say, like on Facebook with people whom I interact daily, more and more news were about coming escalated conflict with Russia, like their troops staying near the border and something gonna happen.
Hmm.
But I'm I didn't believe anything gonna happen. It looked like something like public stuff, like some announcements. I don't know, negotiations.
Hmm.
Some mass media, like PR. I don't know what was that. It looked like they are doing something, but it won't. It will not touch my life. So I even didn't watch this Putin's speech about LNR, DNR when he like one day before. Although this social media was really hot about that, and I know many people were already fleeing. Like some of them went on vacations in January. Somebody took their airplane like flight tickets several days before that, but I
Hmm.
didn't feel I need to do something. I thought that if it's gonna like if something happens, I will react to it. That's usually how I do. And so why to be paranoid in advance while it may be lasting for
Hmm.
weeks? I don't know. I don't want to be abroad all the time, and I didn't feel unsafe. And then I normally sleep till 9 a.m. or 9:30 a.m. and then at about 10 a.m. I start work remotely every day. Like I take my coffee, switch on my PC, and go to my daily stand-up meeting with the team, and then I like do my tasks. And at 7 a.m., my son came to me with the phone, very anxious, saying, "My ex is calling. Mom, you should
Wow.
take your phone." And he said, like, he called me at 7 a.m. and said, "Today at 5 a.m., the war started." And
Wow.
I was shocked, angry with my ex, and I couldn't believe. And he said, "We need to do something. Okay, you can take your like couple of hours to I don't know to digest this news or whatever, and then let's call again during the day and decide what we do.
Hmm.
And like the first 2 days were impossible. I could hardly feel this is my reality, and I could
Hmm.
hardly make any decision. And the next day he called me early again and said, "This is approaching quickly. I'm taking our son. If you want, you can go with us." So he took my son, and I didn't go with them. But he took my son out of the city. He said Kiev is dangerous now. So they went away for 120 kilometers from Kiev to a village where they have like summer house outside of Kiev, because they were like during the first night they were bombing around all Ukraine. Just suddenly rockets came to, they said, to military bases, to airports, military bases, some strategic objects, point by point around. And I was lucky not to have anything near me. But in
Hmm.
Kiev there were many dots for that, and he felt that's unsafe for the kid. And since then,
Hmm.
so I haven't seen my kid for 3 weeks already. He's with my ex,
Wow.
and I'm still staying at home. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna remove myself here for a good 10 minutes, and I'm gonna give Darrington his shot at the at asking whatever questions he would like right now, and I will be observing. And Darrington, take it away.
All right. So I guess what has it been like? We talked a little bit before the podcast started, but what has it been like to live in Kiev during this invasion?
Um, so there are different places in Kiev. Some of them are more dangerous than others. And from like watching back from here and now, I understand that I'm really lucky. My part of Kiev is more or less quiet. I don't hear sirens. We don't have bombings here. We only had two or three um, incoming shots, several houses away from myself, and it like during 3 weeks. So I feel more or less safe. I don't go to underground. I don't hear sirens, but the first week was difficult because I didn't understand the level of danger. The first shots, I didn't realize, like there were sounds, heavy sounds from window. You don't understand if it's incoming shot or if it's our army does air defense.
Right.
Now I know I can recognize the shots now, and they are more rare now. But yeah, I have learned how to know
Just by
what
ear.
it is,
Yeah.
just by like a new skill, which every Ukrainian has just acquired. Yeah, and
Right.
if I would leave the other part of the city where many houses are destroyed, or if a really close building would be destroyed, we wouldn't be talking, you and me today here. I would probably be shocked and fleeing. But my first week was like staying at home. I didn't go out for the first 8 days. I could not. I was just staying at home and continue working every day full time just to keep my life. And my mom is living nearby, so she came to me every day bringing food. She remembered her 90s, like those deficit time when you need to know what shop to go to find something, because it's like people have bought everything and the shops were empty during the first week. and it worked somehow. And then I just in 1 week I took my car. We went shopping to a nearest village, buy meat. I drove around. I realized where I am, what's the level of danger, how the life continues, and I could really reconsider my decision if I stay or go away. So I understood that I can stay, and that I should stay.
That I should stay is a really strong statement. Um, help help us understand why someone in your situation would stay, as opposed to flee. Because I think that that's something that a lot of us probably feel strongly. If it happened to us, we would be in your situation. Can you speak a little bit on that?
Uh, mm, that's a very maybe that's the most difficult topic for me to talk about.
That's
Um,
fine.
I I always thought I'm a reactive person who effectively deals with crisis. I manage crisis well at work. I had some crisis in my life. I had a divorce. I had like different things, and I also had like difficult travels, like taking my son and doing a trip for 5 countries through Asia without like without hotels booking, just with plane tickets, and that's it. But for some reason, I have never felt like that before. The first 2 days, I could not react. I could not just get up and go away, and I didn't recognize myself. I was crying the second day because I thought I would be fleeing just because it's dangerous, and I just couldn't, and that shocked me really. And my just to explain a bit, I consider myself a citizen of the world. I have traveled a lot. I have traveled through like 38 countries for now. I have lived in several countries. I've lived in Germany twice. I worked with London, flying like every month for 2 weeks, staying in London for work. We lived in Asia for 2 months. We lived with my son in Canada for a month and a half, and I really tried um pretending I'm living somewhere else. And from time to time, I considered immigration opportunities. I'm IT person. I can be employed easily in many countries, and remote work now makes it's even more easy, even easier. And with here and forth, back and forth decision of whether I should immigrate or not. I there were years when I thought I should not immigrate. I just I my son is too small. Like it's hard to assimilate in a foreign culture. I don't know. And from last autumn, I felt I can immigrate again because like in 4 years he will do his college. We need maybe to think something about his future. They called me to go to Hong Kong, etc. And I was really, I was also thinking maybe I can go to Denmark and I have a nice customer there, very, very cool team. I could imagine that really. And I speak several languages. I may be the person who could assimilate easily.
Hmm.
But this time I just realized I'm not like when they force me to flee, when something happens and I just need to decide quickly, and I can't even like I don't have time to emotionally decide, to emotionally say goodbye to where I live now every day. Like when I need to take my backpack and I saw people taking just two t-shirts, one sweatshirt, one pair of mm, boots, and go away and just to save the kid. It felt impossible to do somehow, like so quickly. I thought
Yeah.
I realized it's not an immigration, it's a refugee, and I'm not a refugee. I don't want to be one. I want to decide where I want to and not be forced to live from externally. And I felt like I would do that quickly if my son would be in danger. Even now, if something is gonna happen to that village where he is, I will really quickly take my car and do everything for him, of course. But I like all my immigration desires are now on hold, and I feel really deeply rooted here. Like I, I, I don't have logical reasons. I just feel I belong here. I I'm rooted here. I need to be here. It feels like intuition, and I tried to change my decision twice. Every time I got like I was crying the whole day when I was trying to pack and prepare for the road. And besides, the road feels really dangerous. It like going through Ukraine, they drive for 24 hours without sleep, under attacks, under some impossible like potential danger from the forest. They say like they met tanks. They some roads have no fuel on them, like there are heavy traffic. Sometimes you can't calculate how long it takes. And there were people sleeping in the cars in the field on the field in the middle of nowhere, and it felt really more dangerous to take my son there. And I was not as much in fear to do that than to stay. And so I just stay. And after 3 weeks, I feel adapted. How ironic it may sound, and
Right.
it feels like a new type of life that we are doing now here, new reality.
Oh, I hope that's not, the new reality. Uh, but I think everybody knows that feeling of like, this is my home. I'm going to stay. I think that's something we all we all can empathize with. And we had again talked briefly before we started this podcast, but we just wanted to make sure the audience knows: are you safe? How is the bombings? Like, how does that deal with your life? Like, influence your life or your work or your sanity?
Um, almost every night, there are bombings in Kiev, and they try to point to some points. I don't know the goals, but almost every morning we get up and read the news. Like I get up and read the news, and I can find out like 2 3 more houses were approached during the night and were destroyed. So 2 nights ago, it was Podil, part of Kiev, that they destroyed 4 buildings. 19 people injured, 1 people died, 4 children injured. Um, Luckily, all those parts are far away from me. And in my part of city, there are no sirens. I don't hear nothing. So I sleep. I switch off my phone, which says it's air siren, air um, attack. And I don't go to underground shelters, but there is some risk that they gonna
There's yeah.
bomb some houses nearby, but I consider this risk lower than in other parts of the city, so I'm okay. And tonight there were no shots.
Good.
So, I want to get in here for a second about maybe around 8 years ago. I took a trip to Kosovo, and I was interested to learning about Kosovo and the Bosnian, Bosnia, all that, because this was one of the first stories I remember as a kid listening to this war. And I remember when I went there, prior to going there, I watched like a 4 or 5 part documentary about how complicated that situation was. And I finished watching that, and I'm like, I'm more confused than when this thing started. And I went there and I got to meet the people, and I left there and I felt just as confused. But like Kosovo, Serbia, they're both part of like uh, the Yugoslavia, which is essentially pretty much like the USSR, but just in another area, another block of people. And so whenever I was in Kosovo, I crossed into an area that was very Serbian. And it's just the craziest thing because you cross a bridge and it's two people who just hate each other. They absolutely, you could see writings and the people from Kosovo. But I remember thinking about how I couldn't tell any difference from one side of the bridge to the other side of the bridge. And and I was wondering if you could comment a little bit about that because you told me that Russian is your first language. And from what I understand, a lot of people in Ukraine actually consider them, they're more aligned with Russia as it is. So, um, ethnically, historically, there's a lot of similarities. And I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit about the similarities that exist between the two people. Are they pretty much the same, or is there a lot of differences? And go ahead.
Um, yeah, my native language is Russian. I have always spoken Russian in my everyday life. I can fluently speak Ukrainian, and I do that usually only in Western Ukraine when I travel there out of respect, and I don't use it here just because it's more easily for me to speak Russian. But regarding the mentality, yeah. Um, I think like if we are talking about bubbles, and I probably belong mostly to two bubbles. IT guys bubble, like progressive people of technology and entrepreneurship, startups, etc. And the psychotherapy, psychology bubble. I've been studied Gestalt therapy for the last 6 years. So I'm mostly in social media, and yeah, I'm mostly belong to those bubbles, and I don't feel much difference there. So we just, there are progressive people talking to each other, commenting news, and like exploring this life, how it goes, trying to develop something new, self-reflecting, doing some progress. It feels really nice here. But we went to Moscow maybe about 5 years ago, and I have many relatives in Russia. My father lives in Russia. He lives in Russia since my 13th birthday. Um, I feel some difference. I think that maybe about 6 or 8 years ago, we were maybe more or less similar, but since then, Ukraine is actively developing into technology, democracy, progress, really free spirit. And in Russia, they are more um, like more standing than fighting, and more adapting than pushing through. And my father, when I talk to him, he's often like, we don't talk often. He doesn't call me often, maybe once per month or something, asking how I am, like birthdays, some holidays, greetings. But whenever I try to talk to him about like credit cards, phone numbers, maybe some software usage, some I don't know, just information exchange, how to do something, how we for example, he wanted to transfer money to me and my mother, and he paranoidly says that no, don't tell this through the phone, they hearing us. Don't like
Wow.
um I feel some fear. I feel some strict rules they are afraid to violate, and I feel double culture of like one part is saying, oh, we are really progressive and developing quickly on like economically, political, I don't know, just software or business or maybe all, TV series that I watch. I sometimes watch TV series, especially I watched several series about psychotherapy because I was interested. It looks on the surface that they are very progressive. The Moscow city, like the interiors of the scenery they show, but somewhere behind that there is psychological constraint that I feel like that something is not allowed to tell publicly or to
Hmm.
discuss. Just hard to say because it's not obvious. But I thought it's generational. I thought my father is just because he's pensioner, or because he's former military man. And but it's like echo of USSR, and also some legislation they have. Like in Ukraine, we don't have something like that. You're not like there is no such legislation not allowing you to tell something publicly or to use some software or to have certain political views, for example, or just to go to the street and protest.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
I think they are heavily projecting. Like what my father did when the war began. He sends me SMS every day how I am. He says he prays for me,
Mm.
and he like 3 days after his, or maybe one week after, he said, oh, how are your funds? Have you taken all your money from the banks away to save your funds? And I know that in Russia they have problems with the banks, and
Hmm.
we don't. Our financial system is stable, it's okay. We did a lot to keep it stable, and I understand like that they are really projecting reality.
D.
Yeah. Well, uh, it's funny because I identify a lot with you when you talk about your father, particularly the the question of whether or not it's generational or not. Um, I guess, does that, the dynamics between your father being in Russia and your son being with your ex in the village, is how uh, how does that how does that affect your situation as opposed to maybe, somebody who didn't have that same kind of connection, um, like a Ukrainian citizen that um, doesn't have the same kind of like experience traveling or sophistication like your business analyst. What does the average Ukrainian perceive in the situation, do you think?
First of all, it all began back in 2014 when we like about 60% of Ukrainians have either relatives in Russia or friends,
Wow.
because
Wow.
we are really connected. Maybe not close relatives, but yeah, we are. People have somebody there. And back then, my I lost connection to my relatives from like non-close relatives, like my two cousins and their parents, and they said, you have propaganda about Eastern Europe and Crimea. You don't understand what
Wow.
is going on there, so we won't. You don't understand, so we won't talk to you. So I have lost connection to several people, and other families I know they are also conflicting, and I see the same conflicts now. Like people just saying, "Your reality is false, my reality is true." And vice versa, and it's all about this informational war, mass media, etc. And I don't want to dive into that, but people
Mhm.
are heavily split into um, two sides, two parties that can't like they are debating and they can't reach a compromise. Not many people are able to listen to each other, and it's also normal because we are in a position of survival now and not in a position of understanding the other party. We don't care. We want to
Mm.
just pack our peaceful life.
Right.
And I it doesn't matter in Ukraine now what social class or what social category you are. If you're poor or or rich person, a highly educated, or a village person, we are all united now to do something
Mhm.
to keep peace and to
Yeah.
restore our
Mhm.
country and to get rid of the enemy. But
Yeah.
my in my team there is a chief technical officer, CTO of the company. He went to territory resistance. He doesn't work from the first day. He got his ammunition, his um, armament, and he lives now not at home but at a um, special room where they just do military work. And um, I don't know many IT people doing that, but I know some men are doing army now just
Well,
to resist.
Right.
yeah, you know what?
Yeah.
I do want to say something. It has been extremely touching for me to see how many people like have, well, one, either refused to leave or taken up arms themselves. Like it's been quite shocking. Like I can't remember the last time I saw a conflict go on like this, and so many people just so patriotic and so loving of their homeland, like the Ukrainians. It's really, I can tell you, I'm 40 years old as well, or 40-year-old in about 3 weeks, and I can tell you, I've never seen that in all the conflicts I've seen before in my life. So it really has been something, and I do think that, well, I think it's pretty much impossible to that Russia could have seen some of the consequences and how many people would come to the aid of Ukraine. It's been all around the world. Obviously, there have been some places that still want to enable Russia, but so many countries have cut ties and disavow these actions. And I do want to even say one. This is really important to me. It's relating to McDonald's, but McDonald's cut ties. And I remember whenever I was a kid and I saw the videos of the first McDonald's being opened up in Russia, and there's someone driving their car around filming for like 2 minutes because this was like the first time capitalism was coming. And so now you go from that to just 30 years later, it seems like they're going in the wrong direction. People are losing their investments. Companies are pulling out, and it just shows that so many other countries are like opening up. They're moving in the right direction, and it seems like Russia is still very stuck in a very Soviet Union type way of thinking. And I was just telling Darrington, like, Russia is so big. It is such a big country. It's like, yet they've gone into places like Georgia and Crimea, and they already had 15 countries in the USSR. So I think that can kind of, just that speaks to greed of not just the Russian people. This is not specifically about Russia, but it's about humanity, where we kind of never have enough, and we sometimes want to take things that don't belong to us. Because I definitely know that Russia is not unique in this field. Like lots of countries have gone to this, and I was wondering if you could maybe speak a little bit about some of the positive things that you've seen in Russia. In this podcast, we really don't like to try to say I'm 100% right and you're 100% wrong. If you take a look at our logo, it's two R's that are like looking at things from different perspective. And so I was wondering if you could add anything to that, to the about the Russian people, some of the positive things, some of the beautiful sides of, even if it's just the architecture. I think Russia has the most beautiful architecture in the world. So is there anything you could tell us about Russia, either the people or the culture, history, anything like that?
Um, mm, I'm not demonizing Russians. I
Yeah.
know that, yeah, I'm able to see people behind the country, so it's not an object to me, like a Russian nature. I know many people there, and
Mm-hmm.
my warm remembrances from childhood are from Krasnodarsky region. They have Cossacks there, and we have Cossacks in Ukraine. And this is where I went every summer too. And I'm like, my grandmother, she was cooking nice, and like it was happy time of my life. Just careless time when I was
Mm-hmm.
just happy every summer going there. And I remember there was a train going from Kiev um, to the sea and near Taganrog, and then to Krasnodar. I know every station there. I
Wow.
remember how you go 24 hours in trip, what cities you go through to come to my grandparents. It felt like in my childhood, it felt like one country together. When
Mm-hmm.
Chernobyl happened, they sent me also somewhere there. I was very small
Wow.
to protect me. I was 4 years old. Chernobyl catastrophe of the nuclear plant.
Right.
We also like it was also like a common thing for USSR. It was not Russia or Ukraine. People were together, and I love Moscow. I love St. Petersburg. I have relatives in Moscow as well. My father's sister, and I adore the theaters in Moscow. I like the streets there. We had a beautiful vacation in Moscow with my son. Um, I like the movies they do. They're touching the music. We in Ukraine there are many people who love who adore Russian rock music. It's very powerful, and actually people are now just following rock stars, watching how they comment war, and like, okay, we continue listening to those, and stop listening to them. Apart from that, the music is beautiful, and there's a separate popular culture behind that, and concerts, etc. So and my father, he does skiing. He
Oh
After
wow.
he stopped being a military man, actually he went to Chechnya twice. He has his history, and I think he belonged to the system. He was um, a victim of the system, because as a military man, you are not a free person. But
Mm-hmm.
then Americans did some education for former military men, so
No
he
way.
made IT education. He went
Wow.
to a college. He now works in a college. It's a railway college in Russia,
No
one of
way.
the biggest. And he does education for people, and he does skiing, and he helped my son learn skiing, and he's a beautiful dad. Apart from military thing, um, I I respect him a lot, how he changed his profession, how he could, like, in his 50s, he could become a teacher.
Wow.
Um,
You know what?
in 2014, I learned not to talk about politics with him, so we
Mhm.
saved our connection, in contrast to other relatives.
You know what? They say there's two things you don't talk about of politics and religion. And that's like the most important talks that we have on this podcast. But what we've tried to do is we've tried to make the talks that like a talk that you would talk about like getting ice cream, or watching a baseball game or having a bag of ice, a bag of chips. Like if you were discussing something like that, you wouldn't get really angry. You would just discuss it as it is. And I was wondering if you could speak on anything about this because, from what I understand, both Russia and Ukraine are like both Orthodox, like Christianity. And so it seems like a little strange to have like Christians fighting Christians. That's just a little awkward, you know. You could kind of understand if it's Christian fighting a Muslim or Jew or something like that. You can maybe make justify it or something, but it seems like you have two separate sides that are both united by common, uh, common religion, common language, and also common religion. So, can you speak on anything about that that you might be able to add to that?
Um, I'm not very religious,
Hmm.
and although I studied in a Christian university, I'm more, I like Buddhism, and I like both Christianities, and I learned something about Muslim faith as well. So I think all religions are more or less about the same if
Hmm.
taking politics away, and faith is just a set of values, and just believe in the higher spirit that supports us, and explains why everything just happens to us. But apart from that, I think that I know that Christianity has split, and the Ukrainian church is moving apart from Russian church, and it feels like their church is politically influenced, and religion
Hmm.
should not go to
Hmm.
politics. And
Amen to
whenever,
that.
Hmm?
I said amen to that. Darrington about had some talks on that.
Go ahead.
I think religion is what just helps people in hard times, and this is what we all need, and not just implement in politics through
Hmm.
religion. So I believe this should be neutral and with the people, and
Hmm.
not
Neutral.
with the government. Church should be with the people and not with the government.
I love that neutral. D, you got any last thoughts? You want to start? Want to start wrapping up?
Um, yeah. So my first of all, what can we do? Um, being across the ocean or wherever we are in the world, what can we do to help? Um,
Oh,
Um,
D. Oh, hold on one second, D. I believe you told me you had sent a text or called someone, Darrington. You want to tell
I,
me about that?
I had sent a text or called someone.
Oh, it was someone, a congressman. Was
Oh
was
yeah,
that you?
well, of course, right? Like the very first thing is like if you're in the states, call your representative, call your senator, like write a letter to the White House, whatever you need to do, right, to let our people know that our representatives know that you support the Ukraine. And not every United States citizen has that same opinion. That's why it's important that those of us who do are getting politically active. Not saying that you need to go to rallies or whatever. I'm just saying like this is very, very important that we let our representatives know how we feel.
Yeah. So, kicking the question over to you. We have you can tell us maybe about your friend who's doing this food distribution. And I've already made a donation from RHC Podcast, but we are going to put some links to some stuff that some other organizations we will be supporting. But if you could tell me anything about that, Sasha, and what, yeah, how someone might be able to get involved. I think one thing at the bare minimum is I cannot I cannot believe how many people have posted these flags uh, on their on their their social media, and I know that's a very small thing to do, but it is very symbolic just to show that you guys, Ukraine is in our hearts, it's in our minds. And I'm a Christian. I do believe in prayer, and I routinely pray for Putin, who, like, I do pray for Putin and Kim Jong Un, and they're not people I want to pray for. And that's the reason why I feel I need to keep praying for them, because they're people who I want to hate. And as a Christian, I don't want to have hatred in my heart. So I feel like I need to do that because I need to put that positive energy, one, into the universe, but then also, like, prayer is just a first step. So any Christian that says, I'll just pray for you, um, I just want to send a message out like, yes, you should definitely pray, but then you should also get up and do something. And so we are doing something here, not only in this talk to try to humanize you and where you're at, hear about your situation, but also in raising funds. And yeah, anything else you can add to that, or tell us about your friend or any organizations that you might know about right now that are doing work, because you're there, you see it firsthand.
Uh, First of all, I want to tell you that I have never ever made such a public interview in my life, and I have never ever
Mhm.
fundraised for something. I was usually neutral or helping people very point to point, a particular family only, and so I don't want to promote any huge funds of Ukraine or call for money to finance the military stuff or whatever, but
Mhm.
we do feel huge support from the whole world. And please continue believing that we are right and we deserve our victory, and we deserve to stop any violence happening on our
Mhm.
earth. This is very important, like from energy level. I don't know how to explain. If you stand
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
us, we have more power just to do
Mhm.
what we do. This is what we need on the mental and spiritual level. I don't know, whatever you believe in, energy or God, whatever. This really matters. All those flags in the shops around Europe and America and Asia, it really matters. Somehow they send us photos, and the photos go to territorial um, resistance, and the military guys, they see that they are
Ooh.
fighting with support, and they continue. They have this energy to go on.
Mhm.
And from financial viewpoint, I'm at a I have a friend in Kiev. Just know that out of 4 million people in Kiev, several hundred thousands are still here. I
Mm.
see children on the playgrounds. I see people working on
Oh.
streets in sunny days and during the day, and then the city is empty after 5 or 6 p.m. And we have curfew every day, and everything is closed. All shops, all small businesses, all middle businesses, everything has stopped. People are unemployed. I think many people have no earnings anymore, and I don't know when it's gonna resume. And this guy, he's going through the city with his car, helping many child families with food. Those poor families who could not flee, they don't have anywhere to go, and they had troubles getting money and food before, and now even more. So I know a particular, like a certain guy with just a small non-commercial fund, and he just takes those yogurts, those bakery, I don't know, just he helps real families to survive. And he needs money, and
Yeah.
he also wants a little bus, a little how to say this, car, long car to transport food through the
Truck,
city.
truck.
Little truck, yeah. And ideally, if somebody could help us in Eastern Europe to get such a truck, or to fundraise for that, or at least fundraise for like for
The food.
next week's for the food he brings
Yeah,
to
yeah, very.
us. And I have all the photos. I have contacts. You can spread that. He has
Yeah,
his banking accounts, or I have my PayPal. We can spread this information.
we will definitely put links to any of that, all that stuff here. And yeah, so we made our donation for this podcast. And I want to move to last thoughts. So Darrington, you got any last thoughts you want to say before we wrap this up?
I mean, my last thoughts are always the same. How can we make tomorrow better than yesterday? And I don't know. I don't know that I have an answer in this situation. Um, I'm so grateful to have had an opportunity to meet you, and um, I hope that everything goes well, and that you're safe and secure and healthy, your son, your whole family, um, and yeah, anything we can do to help, um, because nations go to war, people don't, and that's that's the one thing we all need to remember is that we're all victims in this, whether you're directly affected by it or you're sitting on the other side of the world. Um, we should stand together and embrace each other in love. That's my final thought.
Yeah, and I do want to say something. Thank you for that, Mr. Abraham Prince. War brings suffering for both sides as well as neighboring countries, so it's necessary to end the war on peaceful negotiations. I do want to say something. I don't want to get so much into the politics side of this, but uh, hearing what Putin's demands on for Ukraine for not to enter into any bloc, whether it be the EU or NATO, I thought like how offensive is that someone can say my convictions about reality. You have to live up to that. You have to. Uh, I'm going to force you to do that. And as Christians, this is one thing I really try to stay away from. In the sense of trying to use a government to try to force anybody to do something that I believe in as a Christian. And so I am actually writing a book about race right now, and maybe around halfway through. But I talk in there about how this might be something that only happens in English. This double, this like pun that the word race means both like a competition, and it also means like our ethnicity. And sometimes it feels like we're in races against other nations, or people might talk a lot about the arms race or the nuclear weapons race that America and USSR have been in, or the space race. But at the end of the day, really, we might have some genetic differences, we might have some different culture, but we are all on a marathon on this planet together. And we may be separated geographically, but I think as long as we continue to see it as an actual race where we're trying to compete, I think we're really going to keep running into these kind of problems. So I really appreciate you taking the time out. Um, we definitely want to wish you safety from here. And I'm just wondering if you have any last thoughts that you'd like to give us. And if you could close off in like maybe a few sentences for anyone who may be in Ukrainian, who might be listening, if you could send a message out in your native language, that would be amazing. And then we'll be closing off after that.
Yeah. Um, First of all, I see parallels between the messages I receive, and I see the same happening in this chat now, that I'm in super danger and I need to flee, and or yeah, I wanna be safe, but I also wanna have my choices. Like I wanna be able to choose how I live my life and where I
Mhm.
am and what I do, and I wanna go to a restaurant. I wanna have a safe walk on the street. I wanna have my son with
Oh.
me, and I really believe that I have my human right to do my choices. And this is also with about safety. Like I don't want to flee, and it's also about democracy and freedom. Like what it is being done to the whole country. I don't think, like, we have 40 million people in this country. If everybody will flee, what will stay with this country? I am in danger maybe, but I'm in less danger than people in Mariupol, so I stay. And I don't know why I stay. I feel like I need to stay now, and my son is okay now. And I I feel so much connected to the nation, to my nation, because what we are doing now is telling the whole world that nobody can tell others what
Mhm.
to do. And any nation has its maybe some conflicts in it, or social is not the conflicts. We don't have huge conflicts in Ukraine now. Some social issues, but every country and every person has the human right just to solve own issues on how he decides to do, how the nation wants to do. They are free to decide for themselves. No other external thing
Mhm.
should come and tell me what to do, or
Agree.
my nation how to live, and how we should develop, what union we should do, whether we should split, whether we should be
Mhm.
democratic or socialist or whatever. It's our human right to live how we want to live,
Mhm.
and we are going to fight for that, and
Mhm.
we are going to live like that, because it's our human value, it's our like ethical value to be like that. And we feel now as strong as never before about that being our value, both on national and on personal level.
Wow.
And to my Ukrainian people, uh, я верю в победу очень 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 сильно, всем своим сердцем. И я остаюсь просто потому, что осталось немножко. И мы точно победим. Слава Украине! Героям слава!
Wow. I Well, listening to you the entire time, I was just breaking out in chills all over my body, and that was a very rousing speech. I think if we'd had some Braveheart music, man, that would have been so powerful. I felt like so empowered, like the guy in Braveheart. But that being said, we really want to thank you for your time. We're going to put links to everything that we're doing here, and you could actually find it on our website as well. You can visit www.rhepodcast.com. Sasha, you are an amazing person. I'm really glad I found you online, and please keep that fighting spirit, not only in this time, but long after this issue is resolved. We need more people like you with that spirit in this planet. So, yeah, that being said, we want to thank you for joining us today at RIT Podcast. Please be sure to subscribe. If you're not, check us out at Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Spotify, just about everywhere you can find someone, you can find us. And yeah, this is extremely powerful, and we're going to leave you with this final video. And we definitely are grateful that you're here with us today. And we look forward to seeing you back at the next episode of RHE Podcast. And here we go. I'm still in shock. So thank you so much.